Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm excited about this show today because my guest is Chris Clothier of Memphis Invest. Chris is, of course, from Memphis, which we've talked about quite a bit. He's been around a long time. He's well respected in the investing world. He's an entrepreneur, an author, an investor. He's a speaker, and he's a mentor, and he's a guy that always stands out when you talk about the topic that we're going to talk about today. And I know this is not anybody's favorite term. We're going to talk about turnkey properties. But the thing I want you to understand, too, is that Chris he's a busy guy. He's the father of 5. He's really a fine-tuned athlete, and I hope that we get a chance to talk about all of that today. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, how are you?
Well, I'm good. I've been looking forward to this show for quite a while. I love talking to people that are the standout person in their field, and that certainly describes you and your family business. And so I'd like to just start out. I gave them the short version of your awesome bio. So I'd like you just to tell everybody how you got started, how you got into what you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was raised in an entrepreneur family, and lucky to have a dad that, from my early age anyway, pushed us to go to work. I remember when I was 11 years old, I was bagging groceries and stocking shelves in the family grocery stores. So was kind of taught from an early age to go to work, get out there, I guess, be observant, kind of watch my surroundings, see what's going on around me, and basically taught how to be an entrepreneur. And I was raised in the family business, started many companies with my father, my older brother, my younger brother, started my own company myself out in Denver, Colorado. And all of us were finding success in the grocery brokering business. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is that even as a family, we're always looking for new things to do. That's something we were taught by our dad. And we were looking for ways to invest our money. All of us independently got into real estate on our own, kind of separately. So I was out in Denver, Colorado, doing well with my brokering company. Actually bought a Carlton Sheets program. For those that can remember when Carlton Sheets was heavy on TV, I bought a Carlton Sheets, How to Invest in Real Estate. Got into it by accident. I was having difficulty selling my primary residence, and I did a trade with someone else. They wanted my house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was out on land, and they wanted the land. They had a house that was near a university that they couldn't sell. It was a lot smaller than mine, and it was really funny. I ended up purchasing their property as an investment, which allowed them to buy my property. Mm-hmm. And free me up and buy my own home in Denver. So I got into it quite by accident. That was my first property. I didn't mean to be a landlord. I didn't mean to get into investing. It just kind of happened by accident. To make this kind of long story short, as my family was all getting into real estate independently, my father was doing a great job of buying homes in Memphis and actually working with his first clients were FedEx pilots, people they were very busy. They had their own schedules. They didn't want to spend the time to find properties and renovate them, that kind of thing. So basically asked my dad if he would do it for him because he was having some success taking, his profits with his grocery company and buying single family homes in Memphis. And he got so good at it and had so many people requesting his assistance that he ended up getting out of the grocery business and going full time into buying property, renovating them, and placing management on them for other investors. And that's
a leap from the grocery business to houses.
Yeah, it was 2003, so it was 14 years ago when he first started doing it, and I really became his first out of town client. My older brother was in South Florida, mm-hmm. and he and I kind of, I guess both at the same time, started buying houses from our dad because where he was in South Florida and where I was in Denver, it was just too expensive.
Yeah.
We could get more bang for the buck buying in Memphis, and so we became his first out-of-town clients. And then let's just say our close knit of other investors or business people around us in both of those markets became kind of the next group, the next people that were interested in buying in Memphis. And that's very organic, the way this company started.
Yeah, that's really an amazing story. So you kind of, I tell people I'm an accidental wholesaler, but you were like an accidental investor for sure, which is oddly the way some people do start.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There was I tell people all the time, our company we're very blessed. I mean, it has been, I tell people all the time, we've made some good decisions. We've had some great growth. Today we're managing almost 4,100 properties.
Wow.
In 3 cities. And we're doing about 650 to 700 deals a year now. But there is no whiteboard. It's not like we have this plan that said this is what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. We just, it goes back to that entrepreneur thing. I was raised in an environment where you look for opportunity, you listen to what people are telling you, you find a way to provide a solution for problems others are having. And the problem is people didn't understand real estate. They didn't have the time. And to be fair, some didn't want to put the time into learning how to do it themselves.
Right.
And so that's all we did. We just provided a solution 14 years ago. And now you look at where we are today. So that's really all it's been.
Well, and don't you think that's the success ultimately of any business? It's finding the problem. And if you're able to provide the solution, then you've got a business.
Absolutely. And for us, we followed, our growth was this adage of we wanted to be a category of one. Mm-hmm. We really wanted to separate ourselves from everyone else, be so over the top, so good at providing the solution that we were actually providing solutions before investors knew they had the question. and
awesome.
Yeah, that's, but again, I give a lot of credit to my dad, Kent Clothier Sr., my older brother, Kent Clothier Jr. We have 75, full-time team members today that are phenomenal. And
wow,
everybody deserves a lot of credit for doing their role. But, we just, I don't know what it is about our family, kind of the way we were raised. We were just raised to just go for it. And that's what we did. We just wanted to be so over the top, better than everyone else. We wanted to really create a category by ourselves. And so
now I'm trying to envision, for me, that's like a nightmare scenario, 75 employees. That's obviously not the case with your company. So I'm thinking back to when your dad got started. Well, I'm guessing he started small, added a couple of people, but there must have been a point where you kind of scaled that up and it went more rapidly.
Yeah. So the very first person my dad ever hired still works for us today. Her name is Carol Henderson, and it's the story that they tell is really funny because he sat her down for lunch or coffee and told her that he wanted to hire her for a few hours a week, and he had no idea what she was going to be doing yet. She was just going to be kind of helping him, and he didn't know where it was going or what it was going to be, but he had a vision, and there was demand, and so he was going to build it. And, I think that we stayed fairly small. We had maybe 10 people in 2007, which is when I joined the company. So Memphis Invest itself was really formalized in 2007. My younger brother came on. I came on to help with the sales and marketing. And I think there was about 10 people. But it really has taken off. 2012, maybe 2013 was when we started adding about 10 people a year.
Okay.
And we expanded into other markets. So today we're in Texas, in Dallas and Houston. So we began to make hires in other cities to run our operations in those cities. And
okay. Yeah, I think that explains that you would have to have a lot of people to manage a business that was in multiple cities. Yeah. So if I'm understanding you started right out with that first property. So you started out right away with buy and hold. That was your strategy.
That was always our strategy, was to really let the power of both leverage and a resident occupying that property we wanted those two things to combine and pay off for us. So, as long as you have a resident that's high quality, that's taking care of your property and paying the note down, that's a pretty good way to build what I wanted, which was a legacy. I wanted something for my children, for their future. And so I figured I could always make money, with my active job. I wanted something for them passively in the future.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great way to look at it. So now, did your dad always was he bought the properties and then fixed them up himself? Was that always his model? I'm thinking back to the beginning.
Yeah, he actually was really, really good at what was called subject to purchasing. So he was great at negotiating with homeowners that, again, they just needed a solution, which wasn't always to sell the property. They needed somebody to pay their note, right. For whatever reason. And he was really good at that. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Your dad sounds like he's from the time period that I see a lot of investors here. Back when the interest rates were 14, 16%, they got really good at creating ways to put a deal together. And certainly subject to was one of the best ways that people did it back there. I remember the days when you could score an 8% mortgage, you thought you'd hit the lottery because, it was so difficult. But one of the older investors here says, if people will ask him about that time and he'll say, kind of slow, he'll say, well, I've made money when interest rates were 16% and I've made money when they were 3%. I just did it a little bit differently.
That's right.
Yeah.
You have to be able to adapt to the environment, especially to be a successful real estate investor over time. You have to be able to change and be able to, see what's coming next.
Right.
So.
Well, let's talk about your kind of niche. And I know you're not fond of the word turnkey investing. And for me, that kind of puts a label on it that's not really, nothing is completely hands off. And I think a lot of people that buy so-called turnkey properties, they think they're going to make the purchase and then go off and go hiking and go to the beach and it's all just going to work like clockwork. So let's talk a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, turnkey, it's funny, buying properties turnkey, which essentially means that you're buying it from someone who has already identified it.
Right.
They should own it. They should absolutely already own the property. They should have already done a complete renovation to it. That whole process has been around forever. It's not like it's something new.
Right.
But the word turnkey getting attached to it, that really started in the mid-2000s, 2005 to 2008, that time frame, and really caught on, became a great marketing term. And I often tell people today, the reason why I don't like it is that it has no meaning anymore. That there are so many people that use it, whether they're individual realtors or they're actual companies, they use it because it's a great way to attract eyeballs. And unfortunately, the eyeballs are looking to attract often are new investors that they want a passive investment. They're looking for something that is, and I don't mean this in a bad way, they're just looking for something that's easy.
Right.
And people have gotten really good at marketing to those investors and letting them decide themselves what it means. So you got people that are selling houses that they don't even own. They're taking listings off the MLS and calling it turnkey.
Wow.
And people are assigning their belief that it's done for you, easy, already occupied, going to make money immediately. And it's not the case. It's just simply a marketing term today. Way overused.
I think I was talking to someone the other day that is a rehabber, and she's got a really, really young gal, Dynamo, and, she just has this great business. And she said, she was looking to market herself and take away the term flipper. She said, but there is just really no way to do that because, like for her Instagram feed, for instance, once she researched it out, that's what people know it as. And that's what turnkey, I think, is. So I told her, I said, I think what you have to do is just differentiate yourself from all those other people. But at the end of the day, a landlord is a landlord, a flipper is it flips, and it's kind of that way with turnkey investing.
Yeah, it's, if you, like for me, unfortunately, I have to use the term. It is a well-established marketing term, and to be seen in the space, I don't have a choice. I have to use it. So instead, I choose to educate the public. I choose to educate those that are out there that I want to talk to about what does it really mean. And that's not difficult to do. But it's pretty sad that that's what it's come down to at this point. Well,
it is, and I think, it's obvious the reason you chose turnkey investing, that type of investing, is because your dad started out that way. You all saw the need. You were able to fill the need. So that is a great business model for you all. It really is. But let's say that I'm a brand new investor and I don't know, I don't particularly have any rehabbing skills. So I'm going to have to hire a contractor and count on them being honest and smart when I've identified let's say a wholesale deal that needs a lot of work. But my end goal with this property, my exit strategy, is to fix it up and provide it as a turnkey rental. Why should, is there an advantage, or I'm going to hold it as a turnkey rent, as a rental, what's the advantage for someone like that doesn't really know the business, doesn't really have the skills, but they want to be, let's say, a buy and hold landlord? What are the advantages for them?
Well, you nailed it with the way you asked that question, because there are, as with any business, and that's the way that this should be approached as an investment, is that you don't know going in what you do not know.
Right.
And so the advantage of investing passively and finding a high quality turnkey company is that they should have the expertise, the knowledge, the experience, and probably more than anything, the team in place to deliver the experience you expect. The next big piece of the equation is, how do you know what to expect? How do you know what is quality and what's just rubbish? What's
right. Lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same way. See, I find it interesting because it's a dynamic that all of us have. This is no different than when you go to dinner, when you go to buy a car, when you go to buy a TV, a piece of clothing, anything along those lines. It's no different. We want to act and think that it is, but it's not.
Right.
Quality when you see it. You understand, all of us understand the difference between pricing. So in general, something that is more expensive tends to have more value.
Right.
And those things that are less expensive, they are less expensive for a reason. They're going to provide a different level of value. And we have a phenomenal ability as people to be able to kind of fool ourselves. And so someone that's going into this business and really wants to be a passive investor, wants to find a good company, the advantage for them is that they're going to be able to find somebody that can do it for them. The disadvantage is that they need to know and need to kind of separate themselves and assign a certain level of expectation. That is, you should expect excellence. You should expect the highest quality. You should expect, as if you were going to be moving into this house, like with a third-party inspection. It's so funny.
Right.
I was watching a forum this morning, and an investor out of California is buying in a Midwest city. And he says that he's super happy with the company. They've been super nice to him on the phone. They're trying to sell him a house that's already occupied, and they've sent him some great pictures of it. And they're telling him that he doesn't need to do a third-party inspection because they provided him all the pictures. And so he just buy it. And he takes the time to ask the question, what do y'all think? Should I get an inspection or not? And with no disrespect to the gentleman that asked the question, but that's crazy to me. I mean, you would never buy a personal home for yourself. I really love the realtor on the other side. They told me everything's great, so I'm just not going to have it inspected.
Right.
Ever. and he's buying 1,500 miles away. And so that's the conundrum for investors that are buying this way, is that we don't know what to expect, but we go into this thing with just this level of trust and faith and just blind belief that because it says turnkey, it must be phenomenal and great. And it's just, that's not the case. We must be vigilant as investors.
Well, yeah, and I think you hit upon something. You need to treat this like you would your personal residence. Buying property, it's a lot of money. And if you mess up on the buy and you don't know what you're buying, you're pretty much sunk in a lot of cases. And that's kind of what I've seen over the years. It's nice to talk to somebody and to know about companies that do this the right way, because boy, Chris, there are a lot of them out there that are not doing things the way you're doing them.
I agree with you 100%. And all I try and do, and I do this with investors that are even looking at my own company, I tell them all the time, don't take anything that I say on faith. Mm-hmm. It's funny, any of your listeners out there right now, they should not look at me and say, well, he's on this podcast with Sharon, so we're going to give him a high level of credibility and we're going to, take what he's saying on faith. Absolutely not. I mean, the credibility part, sure, because you and I are.
Yeah, we're credible, right.
But that doesn't mean that.
No.
That take what I'm saying and don't verify. Of course you can verify. And even my company, hold my team accountable, make us earn your faith, make us earn your trust as we go forward. That's something that every investor made that one little switch, as you said a second ago. Treat it like it's your own personal property. Don't just put blind faith into what someone says. Really verify and check and hold them accountable. Mm-hmm. We would probably see a lot fewer horror stories in the turnkey space, and there would be fewer people in business, because you cannot stay in business if you don't conduct your business the right way. You know what I mean?
Spend the $300 and get the inspection.
Oh man, spend a few $100s and go visit the person, in person. And let me just give you one quick tip for everybody that's out there. This is something to think about, is that, when you're talking to a company in any business, in anything that you're doing, and they give you a description that sounds phenomenal. I mean, the service is impeccable. The way it's delivered is over the top. Everything is just a positive. And then you find out that they have, I just told you, I have 75 full-time team members. Mm-hmm. But if somebody mimics my language and tells you everything that I say, and they have 7 people that work for them, you have to kind of begin to understand that the marketing and the terminology and what's said has got to be matched by delivery. Mm-hmm. And it's impossible to deliver without having systems in place, high-level team members, long-time team members, and as a business owner, they have to be willing to spend money to build out their company in order to perform. Turnkey companies that are one-man operations, 5-man operations, small little teams that are telling you about they're doing big business, mm-hmm. It does not jive. It's not possible. I've been doing this for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that kind of like you kind of address too with if someone is starting, even before they get to the house part, they're looking for a company, they're looking for somebody to work with. And I think you hit the nail on the head, because the situations that I've personally seen in my own area were more a case of, I don't want to step on any toes, but maybe an agent has some properties that they are trying, and they get contacted by an investor and they're saying, well, I've got all these properties that I have to sell over here. So we'll go in and do a little cleanup on them, which is exactly what happened in the situation that I was talking to you about earlier. An investor from California really got soaked buying some properties, but he didn't do exactly what you said. He did not check out the source of the properties like he should have. He did not do an inspection, because had he done that, he would have found out that even though the properties, a couple of them were older, there were so many code violations, like steps that were 4 inches deep, all kinds of things that wouldn't have even been past any code at any time. But he was the first one to say, I didn't do my due diligence, on the person bringing me the deals, wasn't even actually a company.
Right.
And I didn't do my due diligence on the houses. So he said, it's all on me, but that doesn't, I don't think people have guidelines, or maybe they don't know the guidelines. Maybe that's it. And that's where you and your company, I think, excel. You tell people, and you just said it, don't take my word for it. Check me out, check my company out, but I think sometimes they don't even know the right questions to ask.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, a few key things that somebody should always pay attention to is if you're being led down the road of you need to buy today, the deals are here and they're going to be gone if you don't move quick, that should be an automatic red flag.
Right.
Be patient. As an investor, be patient. If you're willing to go far from home, if you're willing to buy a proper turnkey investment, well, then the reality is that the world is wide open to you. You can invest anywhere. Spend time, learn about the economics of a city, and make sure that it's a good, solid, stable location. Take your time to find a good, high-quality team. And some questions to ask, obviously, are how big is your team itself? Do you own the properties that you are offering to your investors?
Big question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good question.
Yeah. Do you manage all over the city? And the reason why you're asking that, well, even before that, you want to know, does the company you're talking to, do they own all facets of the company? So do they own the properties, as we just said? Do they own the renovation company that does the renovation? Do they own the management company? The reason why I think that is important is that if one company, owns the entire life cycle of your property, then there's no passing the buck. There's one person that's accountable. There's one company that has to answer for the performance of that investment. Unfortunately, if they don't, then it's really easy to say, well, that you need to call the renovation company because that's really their problem, or you need to call the management company because that's really their problem.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yes. Yeah. Instead, in my opinion, go with a company that owns all those facets under one roof. And there's plenty of them out there that are good in many different cities. And then from there, you want to make sure that, okay, if you own all facets of this and you're on the management side, do you manage just the properties for your investors, or are you a management company that manages all over the city? What are your parameters? What are your standards? And to be fair, I believe that you're looking for a company that says, I do have standards. I'm not willing to just manage anything. I'm willing to only manage the stuff that my investors own, because that allows me to put 100% of my time into the investments of my clients.
Okay, that was going to be a question. So you think that that's important that they only manage their properties that they own personally and their properties for the people they've sold them to, their clients?
That's a big, high standard to set, because, that's not everybody is necessarily big enough to do that. But what an investor has to understand is that when you're dealing with an entrepreneur that says, I'm a management company that manages all over the city, and I'm managing lots of property, and I also buy and sell and manage for investors, you're competing with the time, and the most important resource a company has are the people and their time. And people and time are being spread out amongst lots of different responsibilities, lots of different focuses. So I just tell you that there are enough good, high quality companies out there that only manage their investors' properties, that if you're patient, you can find them. And you don't have to accept lower level service. You can do business with somebody that says, look, my main focus is you. And that's important.
Well, and I think another thing that kind of came through is that you've identified your market, the types of houses that you will and will not buy and sell and manage. And let's face it, the standards for managing a property in a low-level neighborhood are completely different than what you do. And you can't, if you're all over the place, your standards are going to slip because that's way over here and your other properties are over here. And it's just, I would think, the way it happens.
Well, let me tell you a great tip, and I hope that everybody listening really writes this down, is that as a company, I often tell people that I want to answer this by saying that we've always made decisions based on what's best for our client. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, I want people to understand that we've made decisions based on what's best for us as a company and what allows us to offer the highest level of service. And by doing that, we've given our clients a decision that's best for them, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So we've chosen not to spread out across the whole city. Mm-hmm. We've chosen not to invest, even though we could make a lot of money investing in certain neighborhoods and certain areas. We've chosen not to. Instead, we're super, super focused on roughly 40 to 45% of the city, which lets us deploy our resources the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, more wisely.
Yeah. We manage more properties here with fewer people than I think most management companies. Most management companies are really shocked when they come in and they see kind of what we do, because we allow other turnkey companies and other property management companies to come in and train with us. You know, there's no secrets in this business. We're perfectly open to let people come in and see what we do and how we do it. And most are shocked, but it's really because we made the decision early on to be hyper-focused, you know, really use our resources to the best of our ability. It makes us more efficient. It provides a better result for our ultimate client. Yeah. And so, you know, again, people are sometimes shocked when I tell them that the decision wasn't always made to do what's best for the client. It was always made to do what's best for us as a company, because ultimately that would lead to what's best for the client.
Well, and you know, when you go back and you talk about branding is the way people feel about you. So if you always are super focused on how you do everything in your business and the experience you provide, then there's no way to lose on that one.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So let me just be devil's advocate a little bit, because this is a conversation I overheard last month at my RIA. There was a reputable turnkey company there, not nearly as big as you, but their properties. The investor that was talking to me said, "Oh, those properties are too expensive. They are full retail." And I said to them, "But what are your goals? You know, what are your goals with the property? And is it worth it to you to have a property that needs no repairs, that they're going to manage for you? And yes, you're not getting it for a wholesale price, but it isn't a wholesale deal. It's all done." So let's talk about that a little bit. How do you shake some of these investors that their goal is to be a buy and hold landlord? How do you shake them out of, I've got to buy it for really cheap and fix it up over the next 10-year mental, that theory that they get?
Well, look, I'll tell you that for our company, we are very, very secure in the value that we provide. And so I don't try and shake them out of it. You know, when an investor comes in, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it's just they simply do not see the value in what we do and the price that we offer our property at, which is perfectly fine. But I'm not going to try and change their mind either. Instead, I try and help them get pointed in the right direction, which in most cases is being a little more hands-on. Because you nailed it on the head. For us, you cannot get the level of service and attention to detail that we provide at a discounted rate. And I'm not going to discount what we do. We as a company are just too good at what we do to discount it, if that makes sense. So instead, for us, we're pretty unapologetic about the value we bring. We know that there's a certain level of comfort, a certain level of, let's call it peacefulness, that comes with doing business with our company. for us, we attach a price to that, and that is what it is on our side. And for an investor that's looking around, that's really, really important. That every investor needs to figure out value is more than just the price of the home. Value is the service you're getting, because the house is just, when you're buying turnkey and passive, the house is just the widget that provides the income.
Right.
You have to have the other services that come with it to make it perform. And there has to be a cost associated with that. It goes back to what I said earlier. You cannot invest cheap in this type of investment and get the level of service that I think an investor should expect. It just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. And so, but every investor has to decide for themselves. What do I consider really valuable? Do I consider high levels of customer service valuable? Do I consider no deferred maintenance as something that's valuable? Do I consider, a long-term period, let's call it 5, 7, 10 years without major CapEx expenses to be a valuable part of my investment? And if the answers are yes, then you're going to pay close to retail. It doesn't mean that more expensive is better. I don't mean that at all.
Right.
I just mean that you're not going to find that cheap.
Yeah.
And you're not going to find that with a lot of equity in most scenarios. So you want to, you always want to dig deeper and look at it, but you just want to know on the front end. Now, if those things are not a major focus for you and you're much, much more interested in squeezing, your value is more about what's my return going to be, you understand that comes with more risk, because you're gonna buy a house that on paper is going to pencil out better, but there's a lot of risk involved, because maybe the renovation wasn't done quite up to the level it should be. The service won't be as dynamic and as on top of it, which makes the investment more risky. But if it pans out, you did better. If it doesn't, you did a lot worse. That's investing, right? That's
investing. Is it fair to say that people, if they buy one of your properties, that they can expect cash flow right out of the door?
Yes, they should absolutely expect cash flow. But just as a generic example, a cash-on-cash purchase of one of our properties is going to give you a return of somewhere between 6 and 8%. It's not going to be double digits. It's not going to be anything sexy. But over the long-term ownership of that property, 7 to 10 years, you can look back and you can expect to get about 6 to 8 every single year consistently, which that's the value that we bring, is that it should be consistent. The communication should be over the top. And, that's what people pay us for.
Well, I tell you, you got a great business there, Chris. Do you have any words of wisdom, any final advice for people that, they're on the fence? Should I buy a house and rehab it and try to do it on the cheap, or should I go the route and buy into like a place like Memphis Invest, where they provided with the word we hate, a turnkey property, they manage it, they do it all? What's your advice to somebody?
Yeah, be honest with yourself. There's nothing worse for an investor than to think that you want to be passive and realize that you really want to be active. That's a bad place to find yourself in. So I say that, again, be patient. There's no rush. It doesn't matter how you want to invest in real estate. In any city, in any cycle, there's opportunity. A real important thing, you said you went to a RIA the other night. I will tell you that as an investor, whether you're surrounding yourselves online or offline at RIAs, you will be the 6 investors you surround yourself with. And that's not original. That was been said so many times by other people, but I believe it wholeheartedly, that who you seek advice from, who you seek counsel with, that's who you're going to become as an investor. And so choose good people that are achieving what you want to achieve. And if they're doing it as an active investor, that's the route you're going to take. And if you surround yourself with 6 really good passive investors that are turnkey or however they do it, listen, pay attention. For the price of a cup of coffee, you can get phenomenal information and guidance and wisdom. And so that's really the best thing I can tell somebody is be patient. There's no rush. there's no rush. There's great opportunity. You can find great success. And if you'll just, surround yourself with the people you want to emulate, you'll get there. You'll get there.
Yeah. And I think for most people, you start out with one idea of how you think things will be, and then you figure out that's rarely how it happens. People talk about investing strategies, and I always like to tell them, I think your investing strategy will eventually choose you, because you'll get in there and you'll think, I want to be a rehabber. Then you don't know what you're doing. You lose a bunch of money. And you say, well, maybe that wasn't such a good idea, or maybe it did work out for you. But I think it kind of all sorts itself out. But you're better off to figure it out before you lose a ton of money. That's for sure.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. And it's interesting to how much information is out there, how many different companies are out there today, and companies doing all kinds of different things. If an investor is just, like I said, if just patient, kind of takes their time looking around and surround themselves with people they want to emulate, not necessarily buy from, I guess.
Really?
Yeah, they're gonna be successful. If you do it right. So.
Well, last question, Chris. You read any good books lately? Are you reading anything good?
Yeah, I am a voracious reader. I read all the time, but I read all kinds of different topics. I haven't read anything necessarily real estate related lately. I've been kind of going off in different directions, much more about not self-help is the wrong way to put it, but just kind of developing my own self. I see that when you and I were talking earlier, I saw that you had a book called the Tools of Titans.
Oh yeah, you see back there. Yeah.
That's a great book.
It's a great. Yeah, I'm kind of reading that along with a couple of other ones.
I really like that. I read a book called The Universe in Your Hand recently, which is
I haven't heard that.
No, it is it's an entertaining look at quantum physics, and so if that can be entertaining. And so that was a really good book. I'm reading The Way of the Superior Man right now, which is again just about being very focused in business and relationships, and so anyway, I'm always reading good stuff.
Well, I like to hear about good books. I always, pick up usually at least one tip of a book that I don't have yet. Well, Chris, I thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was great information.
Well, it was my pleasure. I really, really enjoy the opportunity to do this. So thank you.
Well, we'll have to do it again. But folks, be sure and tune in. We'll have the show posted on the blog, and as always, it'll be on iTunes, and you'll have various ways to download on the go. Or Chris is certainly entertaining to watch as a video interview. So thanks again, and folks, I'll be back soon with another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing.